All right, everyone. We're going to get started for tonight's event, for the StartupGrind event. My name is Michelle, and I represent this company here, CoAdvantage. And what we do is we're one of the sponsors for StartupGrind, and we partner with small companies, especially startup companies, and we help them out in areas including HR, benefits, payroll, and we really combine all those different solutions so you have one partner. And we're very happy and excited to host an event like this. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce Michaela, who will be conducting the interview.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Tonight we have Autumn Manning, who is the CEO of YouEarnedIT, a startup that's transforming the way corporations of all sizes recognize and reward employees. Prior to joining the YouEarnedIT team, she worked with Fortune 500 companies to create tools and systems to measure the ROI for people and organizational development initiatives. Spending free time with their family and immersed in the community is where Autumn is happiest. So let's give her a round of applause for being here with us.
I was saying there needs to be some music or something. It's too quiet.
So I think she's going to do without the microphone. She's comfortable with.
Can you guys hear me?
You guys okay with that?
Okay.
All right, good. So how was your day today?
It was busy. I worked from home actually on my bed because my kids are out of school, so I thought I'd work from my demos all day. So I hid in the back room while they were in the front. So it was good. It was busy.
Aww.
Typical day.
Well, Autumn studied abnormal psychology in undergrad, and I want to know, did you ever envision yourself working as an entrepreneur, going from abnormal psychology to YouEarnedIT?
No, I didn't at all. So I studied, she mentioned, abnormal psychology, so I was really fascinated with just behavior change, and I actually studied abnormal psychology in children. I was really fascinated with, one thing I studied and was really excited about was precursors to psychopathic behavior. So I didn't think like, this is the path to running a software company, but it actually was a really good path. It was a really good study for what I do now. But it really comes in handy more than you think. Whether hiring or working with just great customers, just people, like we're all crazy. So I didn't think I would be running a tech startup of all kinds of companies. But I just I've always been really curious about behavior, and I think that's usually what I do day to day. It's kind of the competency or the mindset that I have every day. So I didn't think I'd be doing this, but it makes sense if I look back.
Yeah. How did you first get involved with YouEarnedIT?
So I'm from Arkansas. Are you from Arkansas?
Belfont.
I don't know where that is.
Harrison.
Oh my gosh. Goblins, Harrison Goblins. Yes, okay. I never meet anyone in Austin from Harrison. My family's from Harrison. So anyway, I'm from Arkansas. And I actually, so I was gonna go, I was talking to her, she's actually going off to law school. And I was going to go to law school. I wanted to advocate for children who were in the foster care system. And my family got in a really bad car accident. They're fine now, by the way. I always feel like that's like a horrible part of the story. But the point is, I ended up not going to law school and was going to stick around after school and just figure out what I wanted to do for about a year. And then I was going to go to law school. And I heard about a guy who started a company in Northwest Arkansas to make life count for people. And I just felt like that was really fluffy. And I just felt like surely you have to figure out how to measure that, or no company's ever going to buy it. So I called him and just said, I think you need me. I have a behavioral psychology background. I can measure and automate and kind of make sure that what you're doing actually moves the needle for companies. So ended up starting with him. We worked in his garage for about a year and then grew that company in Arkansas for about 10 years. Through that process, just working with we ended up having a lot of large Fortune 500 companies. And we would basically work with them anywhere along the employee life cycle. So you'll get this considering your company. Whether it was creating better profiles for executives who came in or automating assessments so we could predict performance. And I met a friend and then the chairman of YouEarnedIT now, Kenny Tomlin, who has a global agency now. And he just said, listen, our company is doing this kind of thing day to day where our employees are sending recognition just ad hoc. And we're giving them cool stuff, and it seems like there should be a business that does this too. And at first I just thought, rewards don't really matter for people. I just felt like they were kind of hokey again. I think I've always been kind of a skeptic about most things, clearly. But then I looked at the market and realized that every company has the issue of finding really good talent, keeping their really good talent, especially with what we all do, finding the best and keeping the best and then performing, outperforming peers. And the industry was solving that problem with a bunch of stuff. They were saying, we love you, we want to keep you, we want you to perform better, so here's a plaque. Or, millennial, we think you're great, and here's a manual catalog for you to pick from. And there was just a disconnect there for me. So I thought it would be fun, so I came on board and then spun out that company from Rockfish and then just grew it. Once we started growing and scaling, after we had about 40 or 50 customers, we realized we were competing with our own parent company for engineering talent. In Northwest Arkansas, there's not a lot of really good Ruby engineers. So we moved down to Austin, and we've been growing the company ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those 60 customers in the first year.
Yeah.
How did you make that happen?
The first year I was fortunate because we were incubated under Rockfish Digital, which had previously been purchased by WPP. So, which is a very large publicly traded, the holding company for about 400 marketing agencies. So I always say we were lucky in that I kind of had the time to really study the market and the time to really feel like if we're going to build a different product, I wanted to really intensely focus on how will people use it, will they use it, how should we integrate, what systems do we want to partner with. So that first year, it was me and just 2 engineers and 1 designer, and I just said, listen, we'll build the product now, and as soon as it's ready to say we're a company, I'll start selling. So I would just spend all my time calling people who really struggled with high turnover and people who liked kind of new ideas, agencies, software companies, tech companies, and just said, this is better than what's out there. It's really cool. It's up and coming. You should buy it. We had no idea what to price it. We were basically giving it away at 99 cents. And so I would sell it. Then I would be the customer service person and get them launched, and then sell the next one. And so once it got to where I didn't feel like I could handle anymore, then we hired the next salesperson. I just think a lot of that is because we were really good about saying who would gravitate to a different type of digital platform like this, and it was tech companies, software companies, and agencies. So I think that made it easier to sell to that many customers.
Mm-hmm. And what about the brands I saw Sephora on your website and that industry? How did you cater to them?
So our system, for those that don't know, basically the best way to think about our platform is it basically allows any company to any employee in any company to send and receive recognition real time, whether it's through a mobile app or our digital platform, for whatever it is that they think was important. So it was really important that we kind of turned the model upside down and let employees define what success was, because we felt like the top-down formal approach wouldn't last much longer for most employees. I mean, it wouldn't work for me, and I don't think it would work for most people in this room to be truly engaging. We wanted, it's basically a way to send and receive recognition real time. You can tag that recognition to core values. And then this whole notion of rewards, we also wanted to build a very open-ended rewards approach. So we thought, what if people wanted gift cards and stuff? That's fine. We'll allow people to redeem their points for that. But we felt like people wanted to redeem their points for things like pranking a coworker. That would be more rewarding to me than getting a gift card. If I wanted a gift card, I could go buy one. Or helping the community rebuild after a tornado. So we built a very open back end on rewards. But I will say, the Sephoras and the digital gift cards and the reward fulfillment was a industry that just did not make sense to my brain. It was just a very strange, old school industry that took a while to figure out. And the industry, in our space, most companies make money by increasing the margin on rewards. So we'll say, you're a great employee, you earn all these points, here's 50,000 items that you could choose from. And we just felt like employees were smarter than that that wouldn't be engaging. So we decided to drop the price of rewards. So instead of marking up rewards, we reduced the price of rewards and said, you can get it better here than you can get it on Amazon. We're a tech company. So we put more into the technology platform and charge subscription fees. So I'd say, the reward offerings that we have are thousands and thousands, but it took that industry a while when we were saying, we don't want to make money on margin, so you have to give us the bottom dollar price. That was a hard, I think, paradigm shift for them to get behind. It's starting to change now, but at the time, it was very different for them to be able to offer that.
Mm-hmm. How is it similar and different now than when it was first starting out with Rockfish? It was a kind of tester or just early rewards program. How have you seen a change from its beginning to now, and if there's any similarities or differences?
I don't think the fundamentals of what our platform does is different, or why we do what we do really hasn't changed. We were really intentional about saying we want to build a platform that flattens out the organization, that allows employees to say, this is what's rewarding to me, not you tell me what rewards me, because that was something we didn't feel like would go over very well, and we didn't feel like that increased performance. So we were always in it to say our platform is not a recognition reward platform. It does those things, but we are a platform that drives connection and meaning for people and collaboration and better data for people leaders to elevate engagement and performance. That hasn't changed at all, despite a lot of nudges to change that quite a bit, whether it's from potential investors or from customers who say, yeah, I love that, and I believe in the mission and the vision of what you guys are doing, but we have thousands of employees, and we just want to define who they can send recognition to. That's business that we say, we're not the platform for you. It's hard sometimes when you really want business and you got to keep momentum going to say no, but I wouldn't say that has changed at all in our platform. The only thing that's changed is just how we design features for an SMB versus a large enterprise. But I think that's just kind of natural, just part of where any company gets to.
How else are you different than other platforms, aside from saying no to really attractive investors?
Well, I'd say our biggest difference from other platforms is we will not mark up rewards on employees. So, Outbound Engine actually just became a customer. So when employees at Outbound Engine go to redeem their points, they can feel comfortable that we will not seek to make money off the rewards that they've earned. That's a huge difference. There's a lot of people today in the market who sell that, but it's not true. But they sell a lot of things that aren't actually true. And to get the deal, they say, oh, we don't mark up our rewards above retail. Well, any smart shopper knows retail is marked up significantly above cost anyway. So YouEarnedIT really was the first platform to say, we don't care if you ever put one reward through us. Add custom rewards, add ways to give back to a coworker in need, and we'll mark down our rewards. So that's a big difference, I think, to our buyer. To the employees, though, one of the biggest differences is we talk a lot about the purity of our platform, the purity of the social feed. At the end of the day, most people don't care about stuff. Like, it's nice if I'm in the mood to redeem my points for a gift card or a Razor scooter for the office, which I did. Maybe I can do that. I just want choice. It's not that I wanted the stuff. I just want the choice to choose that stuff if I wanted. Most employees want to connect to people in the workforce without all the bureaucracy that big companies bring. They want real-time information. I mean, most people don't want to be bad at their job, so they want people to be able to tell them, what am I doing well, in a way that's really meaningful and clear, so I can keep doing it better and better. So we're really clear about removing process. A lot of people, allow you to predefine who you can send points to, how many points you can send, what you can say, because it's safe to kind of filter. We don't allow any of that in our system. I think when you kind of trust the workforce, they treat it like they should. So it's a big difference. I'd say the other difference from the very beginning was our ability to integrate. So we built our platform on an API from the beginning and with mobile from the beginning. So, if a customer uses Salesforce, we can push the data to Salesforce. They don't have to live in our system. If a customer uses a learning management system and they want to integrate with that, great. So we're really intentional about building on an API, so there could be that speed of technology too.
We were talking about, we were talking about earlier about the former employee reward systems were outdated, or what worked 20 years ago is not working now. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think, I was saying this earlier, I don't know, it used to say when we first started selling YouEarnedIT, I would say, we're not like, your grandfather's recognition system where you take what you're given and 1 year, 5 year, 10-year anniversary, you get certain rewards. Frankly, people may not stay around that long, so 10-year anniversary rewards aren't really that meaningful anymore. But I think, fundamentally the need for people hasn't actually changed in my opinion. I just think people's desire to speak up and say, that's not working for me. You know, employees now, they're so digitally savvy and they have access to so much information that if the platform doesn't work for them, they won't engage. Even if a company offers it, they won't use it. I think that's been, you know, before, I don't think the market looked at engagement like they do now. I don't think they looked at, you know, is engagement increasing over time? Does it make our employees happy? So that I think has shifted. I think some obvious ones are just taking offline reward programs, which a lot of the market still has. I think it's a hard shift for them, making it more digital and you know, available via mobile or online instead of kind of the traditional catalogs. And again, I say the biggest one is just really challenging assumptions on what's rewarding to people. I think that's been the biggest shift. When we started YouEarnedIT, that wasn't as obvious to the market. I think it was new to hear, like, your people don't really want stuff all the time. You should offer them, you know, they can pull their points and prank the CEO as a reward. It doesn't cost you any money, and they'd rather do that anyway. And you'd save money. And so that was kind of like, oh, that's funny, but people don't really want that. I think that has shifted a lot to allow employees to have a choice of what rewards them. Those would probably be the biggest trends. But it's still hard. I think there's still some really large companies with distributed workforces where I think, we were actually talking about this earlier, I think they know the outdated systems aren't as effective, but sometimes it's such a big cultural or mindset shift to get a 3,000 person logistic company to move to the more modern world. You know, they challenge, they say, well, surely not everyone has a smartphone. Yeah, like 97% of people actually do have a smartphone. I think they're just kind of scared to move over. It's the whole fear of change. So,
speaking of that change, on your social media, it's talking about millennials are really taking over the workforce. And what, if anything, is YouEarnedIT bridging the gap between millennials and older company employees?
We get that question a lot, especially now that we sell to larger and larger companies, and not just technology companies anymore, but you know, logistics companies and retailers and food chains. You know, a big concern, rightly so, is this feels like a millennial thing. Will the other generations in our workforce gravitate to it? And I think the beauty of YouEarnedIT is it's less a millennial thing, but it's more everybody wants a choice. They just have never been given the choice like that before. So, you know, maybe one of our engineers who happens to be a millennial wouldn't typically walk over to someone in person, hand them $5 and say, that help late last night on that bug fix was so meaningful to me, and I want you to know that. I know, by the way, this is the core value you really lived out. Like, that would never happen. But YouEarnedIT gives them a forum to reach out in a way that's comfortable for them on the tools they're already using and send recognition in the way they want to. And then the rewards that he wants. So if he wants a reward to a gift card or a tangible item, he can get that or not. Another generation, you know, if they want cash or if they want, you know, pool their points to help a charity, they can do that too. So I think it actually bridges the gap between a diverse workforce and lets them say it how they want, reach out how they want in a comfortable way, and get the reward that they want, instead of, you know, what you'll see a lot of workforces do and say, everyone did a great job and we're giving everyone this same bonus, or we're giving everyone this same gift card, which I think is well intended, but it's not personalized and impactful for the employee. So,
are there any tax exemptions put in place for these type of rewards?
Yeah, actually this came out today. So I think in the traditional model, you know, companies have you pre-buy the rewards because, again, they're fulfilling rewards and they want to push rewards and make the money off that margin. So that right there is a tax burden for the employee, whether or not they redeem for the rewards at all. Where YouEarnedIT, we said, listen, 50% of your workforce is never going to spend their points on something that costs money. So it's a tax benefit. And some of that 50%, they'd rather spend their money on giving back to a coworker or giving back to a charity in the community, which is a tax benefit, not a tax burden. So, you know, rewards and gifts, there's always an annoying tax conversation that I try my best to avoid in the sales process. I got away with it for a while in the beginning, or I'd go, you know, your company has internal policies. Legally, we're not allowed to talk about that. And that worked for the first 60 customers. They're like, okay, we believe you. Which is true, but when you move over to the enterprise, they're like, yeah, okay, but you need to work for it too. You need to give us a tax recommendation. So that is, by the way, a shift. We have to be more buttoned up on our recommendations, but that's it on taxes. But I could go the rest of my life without giving a recommendation on taxes.
Other than these rewards about giving back to the community, I noticed you are also doing a wellness initiative. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, this is the one where it can easily get muddy because the HR industry is so good about saying, oh, like all these things people need, you know, they need performance reviews, put it in here, and then surely employees want 360 reviews, put it in here, and I think also what employees want is a way to talk to each other, chatter feed, and then they also want rewards, put it in here, and I think there's this thing called badges that really engages millennials, badges in here. So like the HR space is just notorious for just like feature rich, like application poor, and it's like always misses the true need for employees. So we noticed that, you know, we basically said, if your people want to redeem their points for something that encourages wellness, let them. And you can also give them recognition if they display behavior that does make them healthier, if that's something you want to incentivize. So we do have a module. Basically, the best way to think about YouEarnedIT now is whatever behavior you want to drive engagement behind. If you want people more engaged in your wellness program, you can do that through YouEarnedIT. You can automate the wellness. You know, I can upload into YouEarnedIT. I went to yoga last night, and the HR person could say, and I'll give you points for that. And that shows on the social feed. Or I can receive recognition for taking advantage of learning and development initiatives. But the point with YouEarnedIT is it's all driven from employees. It's never top-down pushed to employees to say, we think you need this, so if you do this behavior, we'll give you these points. Because I think fundamentally that does not drive and inspire behavior. If employees say, I'm doing this, can I have points, then the system allows that to happen.
What kind of growth or return in sales performance are these companies seeing from when they weren't using YouEarnedIT to maybe a year or two that they've been using the system? We just wrote a blog about this today. I think the biggest ROI of a program like this is, it's almost easier to say, like, what would you do without a program like this? Like, you know, no CEO or no executive level leader wants to have a company where everyone kind of knows where they're headed and they don't really receive real-time feedback for what they're doing well, and they're wasting a bunch of money on rewards, and the employee hates to come to work because they never hear what they're doing a good job about, and they don't have any meaningful feedback. And so without a program like this, it's a really big impact to the bottom line in a negative way. The positive impact, I mean, there's lots and lots of measures. So we've done primary studies with a lot of universities where they'll look at our data and it'll show performance of the company increases significantly pre and post YouEarnedIT. We show that we're able to move, you know, if you're looking at performance ratings of individuals, you know, people who are kind of B players to A players, C players to B players, so we're able to lift individual performance. You know, sales performance increases 32%. Safety performance, so a lot of our plant locations or manufacturing companies, you know, their safety scores increase. You know, customer service inevitably increases when you have a company who enables recognition to happen for all the things they do well, and you reward your people. So there's lots of things, and of course there's the oldie but goodie that a lot of people feel like is a soft cost, which is silly to me, but you keep your good people. The cost of losing someone good, especially if you're a startup, that it's really hard to recruit people against a vision and low money, and you lose that person, it's a very, very expensive cost. So one of the biggest correlations in keeping your good people is, are you giving them recognition on a regular basis? And the disconnect between what managers and executives think and what employees feel is so vast. I think the latest study I saw basically said, if you ask managers across companies, do you feel like you have a culture that gives real-time feedback, that it's a recognition-rich culture? 86% will say, yes, we do. Employees will say, only 14% of employees say, yeah, I feel like I get feedback one time a year. And that has a huge correlation on turnover and losing good people. So, how are you rebuilding a culture of trust in these companies?
Gosh, I don't know how to answer that. Well, I guess philosophically, if you say, hey, you guys write the rules of what success looks like, I think it's a different paradigm to go, we trust you. You guys are the ones who should be, you know, looking out for us and saying you're doing this well and how you're doing it. And if you do that, we'll reward you in a way that matters. So I think that's one way, if that's your question.
Has anyone stopped using the system? And if they have, why?
We have lost 34 customers. We have. There's a lot of learning from when we started YouEarnedIT till now of who we should and shouldn't sell to, which is it's a weird realization when you realize like that's a customer you should turn down. It seems obvious now. Small companies where, there is something about kind of the virality of some sort of social network taking it off. So we lose companies. We used to have people sign up, 12-person garden centers. We have this thing with doggy daycares that sign up a lot. But I don't know if there was some publication and some doggy daycare publication, but we have a lot of them sign up for trials. They don't do well on our platform, by the way, but they keep signing up. We've lost those people, but those are like 6-person companies. So I think when we lose companies, they're really, really small departments. I've learned we don't do well. There's the whole like land and expand thing that you'll hear with software companies. If we can just land this department at Walmart, we'll expand and win the whole enterprise. We don't do well in departmental pilots. I think it's just because YouEarnedIT takes off really well when it's a social network that you're interacting with. So if I can't reach out and recognize people that I work with in the course of my day, and usually people work across company, then I'm only getting to utilize it maybe 20% of my day. So usually if it's kind of an insular departmental pilot, doesn't go well, we actually turned that business away today. A really, really, really large enterprise customer said, if you just give me the pilot for free for 3 months, we just want it for our 20-person department, I'll take you up the chain and see if they'd be interested. And we just had to say, like, they would never say yes if you did, so we won't do it, because it just doesn't go well. So it usually is when it's a small insular group that doesn't reflect how they actually get work done, because when you want to send recognition, you want to send it to people you actually interact with, so, or a small business. So we've changed that too. It's rare that we that we'll do work with companies. And it's not that we don't want any work. All work is in business. All business is great, but it doesn't do well for them when their company is around 20 or below. It just doesn't take off. So they should be doing that anyway. And maybe YouEarnedIT will help, and maybe it won't. So.
Are there any plans for growth, maybe diving deeper into focusing on departments, or are you planning to grow in other ways?
Yeah, this year it is a big year for us. You're talking about our company itself? Yeah, so our sales and marketing team is growing quite a bit. In 2014, we were really keen on making sure that we knew what business was coming into us, what business could we convert, could we increase the price point enough, could we close deals in 45 days instead of 60 days. So we were really intentional about optimizing that before we decided to put any more salespeople on it, or even a sales leader on it. So this year, we've kind of figured out the model that works and the market that we do really well in. And so this year, our sales team is growing pretty rapidly, and our engineering team. So our engineers, we're growing quite a bit with engineers because we have plans to kind of expand our product quite a bit. So I think it'll be a big year for us. Yeah.
I guess that brings me to my next question about hiring. How do you hire, and what are you looking for, personality-wise? Or everyone is pretty equally experienced, I would say, or I'm assuming you get a lot of those type of applications, but fitting into the culture of YouEarnedIT, what are you looking for?
So we have 5 core values that are really important to our company. Create happiness is one, and so we use our platform, and so we are able to pull the behaviors out of our platform that really embody our core values. So in terms of recruiting, we make sure that those are the questions we ask in the first interview. I probably spend 40% of my time interviewing people that we don't need today, but I feel like one day we might, but I'm not sure. So I'm constantly recruiting, talking to people, kind of meeting personalities, say like, is this the person that we might need today? Maybe we need this person in a year. I don't really know if, but we'll know when we know. So I spend a lot of time, and usually it's a cultural fit first and foremost. So we have those 5 core values, and we're trying to see like, do they fit? Do they have an ego? Do they move fast? So adapt or die is one of our core values. Are they willing to be challenged? Do they think a little bit differently? Do they have this insatiable curiosity? Do they look at software sales in the HR space traditionally? If they do, we probably wouldn't hire them. So I think it's a cultural fit first and foremost, and then we have people across our business that really embody our culture, that aren't part of the department that we're hiring for, sit down and have a chat with them. One thing that I do on the interview side now that I didn't do in the beginning, and I just look back and think all the time I wasted, was I make them do the job. And if they're not willing, that's totally cool, but it's kind of an indication of are they willing to do they really love us? Because, you know, it's kind of like, if you love us and we love you, it's a really, really great fit. So if it's a salesperson, I'll ask them to pitch me or pitch the team. And, you know, if it's a customer success person, I ask them to tell me like 2 products that have really, really bad customer service and why, and a product that has really, really good customer service and why. That more helps us think how they think, less did they do the work. So we're really, really, really heavy on the interview side and the recruiting side, and that also helps us get them up to speed faster. So we've been able to get salespeople performing much faster, so we know they should book their first business within 2 months versus the traditional like 90 days to 6 months, because they do a lot of the work in the interview process. And it's better for them too. You know, if a salesperson's coming on, they want to be getting commissions faster. I want them to be getting commissions faster, so we do a lot of the work in the interview process.
Interesting. This could relate personally or in business settings, but what kind of behavior do you find most toxic?
People who are guarded with information. And just people who have an ego. There is just no place, I mean, in a startup or any company, although it's really hard not to have that, to hoard information or not challenge assumptions. I think that's a really, really toxic behavior. And, you know, we've had people at YouEarnedIT that we've had to let go that is just, you know, we don't move as fast as we need to. We're not as smart as we need to. If we're going to win in this industry, and we think we will, we have to be really, really good about challenging what we're doing and why and where we're going. And so I think that's probably one, people who are guarded with information or are not willing to be challenged for the good of all of us. And that's a really hard, it's a hard thing to do, that being challenged a lot of how you think and why you think and is that the right thing. But yeah, I think that's a pretty toxic behavior.
Have you ever had anyone leave the company, and for what reasons did they do that?
Yes. I mean, I think people have left YouEarnedIT because the environment might not be for them. I think a lot of people, I don't know that I would say we're a startup anymore. I don't know what's the definition of a startup anymore. A lot of people say they're a startup for a lot longer than they should. So maybe at one time, I think, you know, people left the company because people love the idea of a startup, but having to move at the speed of a startup is really uncomfortable for some people. We have asked people and employed to leave the company if you're not good at having one foot in, we're doing this today for this reason today, but tomorrow we have to be willing to do it differently because tomorrow's growth will be different than today's. You know, that adaptability is really hard, and the perspective is really hard for a lot of people. And then, you know, I think in the early days when we hire, you know, the first hire at YouEarnedIT, you want them doing everything, like answering the phones and writing the order forms and then launching the customer. And then some people can grow up in their role as the company grows, and then some people really have a hard time and kind of cling on to what today looks like. And I'd say, you know, in a really great way, we've lost some people there, but I think it was a great time to lose them. They were like, I'm the startup type of person, and you know, we're growing at a rate that I'm not good with. So not a rate that I'm not good with, but I don't want to scale. I like the smallness of the 8 people. So I think we've lost people for that. And then of course performance. So, you know, if performance is clearly outlined and people aren't performing, we've let people go for that too.
It's kind of ironic because it reminds me of a department, a small group, and you guys excel in the larger scale. Going back to the behaviors you think are most toxic, what about behaviors that or personalities you find most contagious?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know the right answer to this question. I know I look around the YouEarnedIT team now, and I think what is contagious is just selling where we're headed, and just fundamentally believing why we do what we do, and that nothing will stop us from getting there. Obviously, you know, being smart about challenging our assumptions, but I think that's a pretty contagious mindset when you just fundamentally believe in the mission of what you're doing, and you're willing to go through fire to get there because you understand the why so much. I think that's a pretty contagious behavior. And one of our core values is I think I said this, but create happiness. I think that's a pretty contagious behavior. So we talk about how do we do that for our customers all the time, if we're answering a ticket or selling or even internally. So hopefully that's contagious.
What about behaviors or personalities most sought after?
Probably just some of the ones that I mentioned before, just the adaptability and the ability to challenge yourself, and the ability to have the right perspective of why you're doing what you're doing. Because if you, like, you know, sometimes you'll hear like, I'm doing this, I know this is wrong in a week, but today I'd like to close this deal and here's what it's going to get us, and then tomorrow we might adjust. I think it's a hard thing for anyone to do, but it's a pretty sought after behavior. And just, again, someone who's willing to really be part of the mission of where we're going is a really important one.
Awesome. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, this is a two-parter. So one, what is the best business advice you've been given? And what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are looking to start their own companies?
Oh, that's really, the first one's really hard.
Or even life advice.
The advice I would give people who are looking to start their companies is you better be ready to live it and breathe it and not sleep it. I just think unless you're just like fundamentally sold out to what you're doing, do something else. Because like it is not easy to do something different in industry or to make companies believe that your way is a better way when no one does it. So unless you just like in your bones believe what you're doing, I mean, there's been times that I've said to our board, fire me if your vision is better than mine. And until it is, I have to do it this way. And I only would do that not because it is because I'm stubborn. A lot of it is because I'm stubborn. I see that in my 5-year-old too. But more of it in that scenario is because like I so much believe in where we're going and why and how I think we should get there, that if you have more conviction, I'm totally cool with let's just find someone else. So I think that's the biggest one is like, unless you can like taste what you want with it, don't do it. Because someone can taste what they want and they're so driven and they'll beat you and they'll win. The best advice I've been given? I don't know. Why am I having a hard time answering that question? I mean, one is, I guess sounds so cliche, but not having to be everyone's friend or not getting your feelings hurt by delivering a tough conversation or having to let go of an early employee because he's just not the right fit anymore, even though he got us this far. So I don't know if this comes in the form of advice, but setting expectations and being really fair about delivering your end of those and being willing to say, this is not working quickly is something that I cannot stress enough. The advice I was given, I didn't follow for a while, is the second you know someone's not a fit, you should part ways. And that's some of those like cliche things you hear, and I made so many mistakes not actually believing that. I'm like, no, but I see something different, and I don't. Like, you always know if someone's not a fit, you should just kind of part ways with both people. So I think that's a really important one that resonates.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else?
What is the size and the maturity of a company that is your best target?
That's a good question. So today, our sweet spot are companies of 100 employees to about 1,500 employees. That's our sweet spot, less because the other ones don't need it, but more of we probably should win that space first before we move elsewhere. Although we do have lots and lots of customers in the multiple thousands, but our sweet spot, kind of where we've optimized what do they need, how do we sell, how do we serve them, to make sure that they're engaged and they're using the product is companies from 100 to 1,500. Where we do not do well as a business is companies under 50. Which is funny to say, because actually here in Austin we have lots of customers and companies under 50, and they're awesome customers. But I think you have to have the right culture in place if you're a company under 50 for that to work. And sometimes, a lot of times you don't. You don't have the right leadership tone set, and if you don't, then the platform doesn't do that well. Any question?
Oh, yeah. So I have a team of 3 right now, including myself, and we recently had to part ways with someone who was super talented and but like a little bit of an ego thing, I think, it didn't really mesh. And so So it's good to hear you saying like, do that early, because I've been like just running that over my head, like we need that person, and anyway, but I guess, and your product's obviously not right for a 3-person team, but
I will say we actually do have 5-person teams who use it and do great. It's just, it's not usually like that.
Right.
Because
right.
usually it's like, hey, you did a really great job, thanks for doing that. Like, I mean, although a lot of people would use Slack and they're 5 people, it's just, if you had thousands of 5-people teams, we probably wouldn't see great engagement. But
right.
But you could use it.
But so you have, obvious experience in this world though. So what would your advice be to maintaining a like non-toxic environment and keeping everybody motivated and feeling like they're contributing like absolutely vital things to the project? And all of this, I'm like pre-funding and people working for sweat equity. So like, do you have any particular advice for where I'm at?
I don't know if it's advice. I just look back on when it was myself and then 2 engineers and our designer, and they were just really, really good engineers. And I think what really got us all motivated is that we were just doing something, we were going to be the next big thing, and it was just going to be us who did it. We talked about that a lot, and we had our, our sprints on notes right there, and our war room, we just had a table. So I think in the early days, it was just communicating all the time about why are we doing this and how are we going to do it differently. And you have the luxury of being, in front of your customers today and really listening to what they need and what they don't need versus what we think they need. So I think that works a lot of times in the early days. And I think the same thing goes for recruiting, is getting people inspired. When we moved down here, I needed someone who could deliver all customer success. So I got to a point where I couldn't support the service packages on our software that I'd sold. So I just needed someone who had the right mindset and who could not worry that I didn't know how she was going to get benefits, but I promise we'll give her benefits, and I don't know how we execute, what payroll provider to use, I don't know, but we'll have one. But getting them inspired behind the vision of what we're doing and that they're the ones making it. Subsequently, that's also an employee that only made it to a certain point, and then it was very hard for her, but I think it was a good time for her to step back and do another startup. So it's just a different type of mentality. I couldn't recruit that same person today in the same role that I did 2.5 years ago. So I don't know, I think a lot of it for me was just like getting them really inspired by that we are going to build this together. We are doing all of it and we're changing the world, and that worked for us.
And then to find those people, was it mostly just like meeting someone, talking about the idea, and then being like, oh, that's cool?
No, it's Craigslist.
Okay. That's surprising.
Actually, it really was Craigslist.
Okay.
Again, but it's hard though. I don't think it's the same thing. So it depends on what roles you're looking for, of course. But the hardest function early to find is sales to me. Because a lot of salespeople are like, what's the base and commission structure? I'm like, I don't know. If you sell, I'll give you 50% of it. Like, I don't know. Is there like what is a commission structure? Like, I don't even know how that works. But I think for engineering talent, we were lucky that we just had some hand-selected talent that we stole from Rockfish and took them to YouEarnedIT. And then when we moved here, it was really just finding a really good key player. But we had the funds at the time to do it. So for us, it was posting on Cityscapes, Craigslist, and I would just interview people and then meet them for coffee and see if they were like sharp enough and like really in it, and then I hired.
Cool.
I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Do you guys collect any information on the employees who are under the programs, the YouEarnedIT programs, like demographics? Is that how you monitor like which generation or which demographic prefers which type of reward?
So where we're going with our product is kind of more smart recommendations around, based on the demographic of your workforce. Like today, how we handle it is if our customer says, listen, we have 800 people, we're growing through acquisitions, we have people all over the world, that lets us know it's going to be really hard to do the custom items. And they're not millennials, so they might not like the whole pick your boss's facial hair reward. That won't go over so well. But maybe executive development stuff and gift cards. And so right now our customer success team does it, but our data helps us a lot in terms of they have that to access to say, okay, here's the the area, the industry. It's really more industry specific, less age specific. So industries, is it a blue collar workforce or not? That tells us a lot about how to organize the catalog. Is it a sales organization or is it an agency? We would recommend a significantly different catalog for that. So it's more industry, less age. We have not seen a difference in age and what rewards they want. But we do have data. I think where we're going to head with YouEarnedIT is a lot of using that data to kind of have smart recommendations for people. First and foremost, the employees to say, here's how you can own your own engagement and performance. So that's kind of where we're heading with the product.
Yes, I know how important the psychology behind hiring is. Do you have a behavioral test that you give to assist you in the hiring process?
I don't.
Okay, that's interesting because that's your background as well.
Yeah, because I feel like most of them are really bad.
The test or
the test.
hires?
Yeah.
The test, not the hires, the tests. I don't know, it's a rare test that I feel like is really spot on and like really the core of a person. But although my background was in psychology, the first thing that I did was build assessments that I felt predicted behavior better than the ones that were off the shelf.
Yeah.
So I was really fascinated in social networks, and so one of the first assessments I built was how do you measure and map and then report back your informal social network, and then how do you change your behavior to have better, to connect better to your team? Because I felt like most of the stuff was like, you're kind of dominant, but not too dominant, and there's no right or wrong way to score on it because you can't really be accurate, and then you have to be all careful. So none of it really, it's like that tells me exactly what I already knew and no actions from it. There are good tests. I know a lot of our customers use them. I'm not saying there aren't good ones. We don't use them, and I don't think we'll use them for a long time. I think people are the best, indicator of like, will this person be a fit? With good questions that we give them, so that we can kind of hear how they think, not exactly the yes or no or the number or answer on it. And I think, I guess the last thing is, I think someone can be really good functionally too, which I understand this is not what you're asking, but a lot of the tests and certain functions are measuring for your skill set and your skill level. But if they're a jerk, we don't want to work with them. And you can tell if they're a jerk pretty quick with how they answer, how they show up, what they are willing to do, what they're not willing to do. So I think that's a much better indicator. Now, there probably are tools as we grow that we'll have once they're hired to help them along, but we don't have screening tools.
So you say you bring them on to a job. Do you have skill tests that they perform? Would be like a checklist?
No, but we do cultural and functional, I hate the word training, not training, but things that people do. I don't know why I don't want to say the word training. I'm a skeptic about training too, I guess. We have, kind of cultural homework that people have to do, which is also an indication of do they do what you told them to do, which is a big one. A lot of people don't. You're like, if we say find 5 people outside of your department and talk to them about how they live out our core values, we actually meant to do that. And then they have to present that at the all hands. And when people don't, it's a discussion with their hiring manager. And then we have functional ones. So again, we have different things for 6 weeks, at the end of every 6 weeks, that they should do functionally if they're in sales or that they're in services. But we just made those on our own. We do, though, in our interview process, we make people talk in accents. And we make them tell us a shocking fact we won't believe because we just want to see how they respond. Sometimes that tells us if they have a sense of humor.
So does your company help with that hiring?
I thought you were going to say talking in accents.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I mean, so if I'm starting a new company and I want to hire and I want to make sure I'm not hiring the wrong people, do you assist with that?
We don't. We don't assist with that, but it sounds like your company assists with that, isn't it?
Hiring, the portion of it, yes.
What we do say, though, is all the work you do to get your people, you're going to lose them. We're the company that helps you keep them in elevate performance. I will say, YouEarnedIT absolutely is a recruiting tool. And our customers, if they're leveraging it right, they talk about, this whole phrase of the perks package or what's my total rewards package. And YouEarnedIT is a huge one. So if you're, if you're going to a company and they have a really traditional, outdated culture and, benefits package, it tells me something about the company. So YouEarnedIT definitely is part of the onboarding, it's part of the package. People say, we have this program, you get this much, this many points and rewards, and you do these things. So it helps to recruit good people. We do have data you can export from our tool to give to recruiters to say, here's what the core values look like in action, but we're not a recruiting company, and we don't help hire better people.
Have you been able to tell whether or not your competitors have noticed you? And also, do you do any industry trade shows?
Yes and no. One competitor wrote a whole web page on us, which I felt like was really bad marketing because it's just redirecting people to us. And it was wrong, all the stuff they said. But, you know, I think we got to a point where our competitors were pitching, you know, we'll do a ton of competitive analysis, and if they're willing to sell us because they think we're a customer, we'll take it all day long. And you know, they'll pitch about YouEarnedIT. We'll say we'll say who's your competition, and you know, there's a company in our space that got about a ton of funding about 10 years ago, and when they say YouEarnedIT, it makes me feel like good. So our competitors have, but in really weird ways. And no, we don't do trade shows. I just feel like it's a distraction, frankly, for business. We'll talk with them if it's around the topic that we really believe in, or we're feet on the ground biz dev all the time. So we do go to trade shows, but before we go, we line up meetings with people, and we meet with, just learn, you know, we tell the competition we'll be there, we want to meet them, and we have sales meetings, but we don't do a booth at the trade show. I feel like it's a waste of our focus. But it works for a lot of companies. It's just we don't have a lot of money to put into it and a lot of focus. So,
what's been the best way you've been advertising YouEarnedIT?
Content.
Interesting.
From the beginning, you know, we wanted to just have a different. We wanted people to know that, well, one, that we were actually a company, and we wanted employees to find us, so we're really, really, really passionate about employees feeling like they have a platform that was built uniquely for them. And also, you know, the HR space is kind of notorious for like navel gazing, I guess, like lots like 50-page white papers of things that are kind of just reiterating things, but there's no action to be taken. It's kind of like lots of data on disengagement trends and turnover costs, but there's nothing to do. Like there's no action that, you know, the industry's giving. It's so contact us if you want help type of content. So we always, from the very beginning, kind of came up with our content brand tenets of like, how will we write and what type of content will we write? And we write a lot of kind of digestible gifts of content. We say, like, we provide 30-minute webinars, blogs, you know, content that we send out to our lists that they can actually use, whether they're a customer or not. So a Millennials Recruiting Guide is one of them. How to create core values in 30 minutes is one of them. So that's the content, but that has been by far the best way that we have just been able to share what we believe, and that's helped our organic traffic quite a bit, instead of paying for people to come in.
Are the CEOs or your audience mostly millennials?
No.
Okay.
No. You know, I think our main buyers are really, you know, people in HR, you know, age ranges. And then a lot of CEOs, though. And, you know, I'm not really sure about the age, but I think a lot of the agencies or tech companies, they really do believe in, like, we want to build a different workforce that people really can, a different culture. You know, we want people to understand our values, so we want a different kind of platform that feels like us. And so we actually do have a lot of executive level buyers. The larger we get in the company, we notice we have a lot of tech buyers. And I think that's because of how we integrate with other platforms. But and age really does, it ranges quite a bit.
Did you guys ever seek out investors? And if so, what was the
We did. When we spun out from Rockfish, we actually just raised a convertible round, like a seed round. So, I have my what day, what year are we in? January 2014, I think we raised 1.4 million in an angel round. And we were lucky too, so we had a lot of people, a lot of CEOs who had already used our platform and had companies in town wanting to invest. So it made raising that round really easy because they're customers who had used it and they said, if you guys ever raise money, we'd like to participate. So when we spun out, the original founders of Rockfish wanted, put a lot of their money in, and then we have Capital Factors, an investor. They've always been great. And then there's about eight people in town, 8 guys in town who run companies that their companies use it, and they wanted to participate as well. And they've been great. So as investors, they've been great because it was really easy to say, we're raising around, do you want in? Because they already known the product, it felt like it was different, so it was a much easier conversation. And then now today, I can go back to them because they know they're a buyer that we need to kind of better understand sometimes. So they're a great audience to go to, whether for fundraising advice or they actually use the product, so they can give me really good advice on sales or how they use it versus their employees use it. So that's the only fundraising we've done.
So your marketing strategy, has it been, from the beginning, has it been national, or in your move here to Austin, did you start kind of with a focus on Austin and then regional and then expand out, scale it that way, or?
Our marketing strategy has always been, the beauty of just kind of content marketing. We started in the SMB space, and I would argue we're still there again, although we get a lot of inbound interest now from our focus on content and just organic traffic in the early days. We get a lot of inbound leads coming in from the true enterprise now, which is great. When we go sell to the enterprise, we certainly will have to think about a more enterprise level marketing strategy. Probably more vertical approach, but so far it really has been just putting content out there to the world and growing our traffic that way. And we get the majority of our sales leads now come into us from our website because of that. So it wasn't really a regional focus. It was more of an industry focus. Kind of here's what every company has an issue with, and we're going to push our content out there on the interwebs, and then hope people keep coming back for more. And so, we had it was me who wrote for a long time. And then when we could hire our marketing director now, who is awesome, who writes all the content you see now, it was him. And then a blogger who is a contract blogger that we produce all that content in-house with just those 2 people. So that's kind of been our strategy, just writing content that we feel like people need to engage their people better. Instead of, if it sells us, we won't write about it necessarily. If it says, hey, here's our features to then call us to buy, we don't write about it. Again, it's kind of the trust factor that we kind of believe that people want a genuine partner in helping them change engagement. And so that generally is our content approach.
What has been if you've noticed, the biggest concerns that executives have versus someone in HR has with your platform?
That's a great question. HR's concerns traditionally, not everyone, but that persona is, I always tell people, it's a really misunderstood role in companies, and they feel misunderstood many times. So kind of the HR buyer, and I understand I'm making just massive generalizations, it's not true for everybody, I have to preface that, is generally afraid to go to the executives because they're not speaking on a strategic level to say, this will drive this ROI. If we don't do this, we lose this many people. It's not a soft cost, it's a hard cost. When we lose this many people, here's our turnover, and if that's where we're going, we need this program. So generally, you don't have an HR buyer doing that. They're saying, I spend a lot of money today, I need to reduce my spend. It's kind of more of a check the box buying. It's like, how do I keep my great people here, but I need to figure out how to state this case to the executives, which I think will give you, and they want to be a hero, because they should. They do really great stuff, but they're so misunderstood that they want a partner to kind of help them look really good to the executives. Because they're just misunderstood. HR is viewed a lot of times as a cost center, and they're the people that are firing people and cutting benefits, and just a function of it, but that's certainly not what they do. Executives are, it depends. I would say we have 2 personas, 2 buyers at the CEO or executive level. It's the one that believes that focusing on your people first matter, and then it's the one that doesn't care, and they focus on money first. The money first is, how are we going to spend less than we're spending today? How are you going to keep us, does it have all the reporting features, functionality, and is this a better recognition reward system or not? I don't really care, it's just, are we keeping our spend that way? I wouldn't say that's our primary buyer, but we do have some of those on our platform. I think the better one, the CEO of the Motley Fool or the CEO of Glassdoor. Those are people who just fundamentally believe that doing something better and different for your people matter, and that it will increase their performance metrics. So they're looking at it to say, is this just a gimmicky thing that will die down after 3 months, or is this really something that's going to take off in my culture? And of course, all the the financial metrics. But I'd say that's the executive level buyer that we go after more and does well on our platform.
When you're approaching HR, like what metrics are they looking at before they're presenting it to a CEO?
Cost.
Right.
So what's the cost of the program, old way versus new way? They sometimes feel like it's important to look at engagement. So I think HR is an interesting industry now where they're realizing that a lot of platforms are fluff and then they die out over time. And so they're now saying like this platform has increased engagement, increased usage over time. I think our people will use it versus the offline program. People need something better. We're spending a lot of money. So, either flat or decreased cost, usage rates in our system. And then I think they want to know, they trust and believe, and they'll present this, but I don't know that many people actually believe it until they see it, the reduced turnover that they'll get from it, attracting really good talent that they'll get from it. So a lot of it really is talent attraction that I'm seeing now, because people really need good. So it's less about we'll keep people, but it's more about we'll be able to get the people we need because we have to operate differently. Like to attract really good talent, you have to attract them in a different way than they did 5 years ago. And I think that's a big one that they're using YouEarnedIT for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
But it does, that impacts our sales pitches and our content that we'll give to the executive or the HR person so much. It's something that we talk about a lot on what you give that HR person, because she or he can't make that decision. The HR buyer is not the buyer, they're the influencer. They have to go ask for money from someone else. They can never sign the check. And so we really arm them with data. They believe it, and then if we can arm them with data, financial data usually, then they'll close.
What metrics are CEOs looking at? On the other hand, are they looking at like cost per head, or what's the things that you're noticing are their biggest concern? You mentioned there's two different profiles.
I don't know that it's CEO necessarily that would be the buyer. It's more, I'd say CFO, COO, and they're looking at cost per head. They're looking at total spend across the business. I was on a pitch today with one of our sales guys, and it was a large agency of 3,000, and they're looking at, we'll help them identify that they're spending $400,000 in their manual programs today, and we can tell them with YouEarnedIT you're only going to spend $200,000. So that's what they're looking at, and so it really is, efficiency. Is it fluffy? Are people going to use it? And what's our cost? Our total cost of ownership, I think. So less per head, but total cost to bring this into our company this year.
Yeah, I was wondering, have you ever thought about using your data that you collect about like demographic and like the culture of a company once you install this in helping them hire other people that will mesh?
Yeah.
And like trying to pitch that rather than just that you can hire people by saying we use this software and like you'll like it, and say like help them hire the right person. Yes,
we have, and I hope we get there. We will get there, but we probably won't get there on our roadmap this year. But yeah, I think it's something that will be a big area. The data to recruit better people, replacing old performance reviews. YouEarnedIT is not a performance review system, but we'll notice a trend on the data that we provide employees to help manage their own performance. So there's lots of really interesting things that our hope is to use our data for as we grow our product. Did you have a question? Did you? Or did someone? Did you have a question or answer it?
He actually just answered.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going to ask what other kind of direction can you take with the data?
One thing that we'll do, and it's a hard thing, but we're going round and round in. One area we'll move next is connecting the data that YouEarnedIT has, which is really fascinating about a culture and someone's performance, with bottom line metrics of a company. So the soft metrics that we have today, I don't think they're soft, but we traditionally think of those soft metrics with the hard metrics. So safety, sales, service in one system. So not just saying, and we know that industry shows safety scores, but we're working on something that will really tie in those bottom line metrics of a company with the YouEarnedIT data to really predict and help them manage and measure performance better and increase performance. years, but maybe early 2016. But I'm probably being optimistic.
Well, will you be available a little bit after?
Yeah, sure.
All right,
sure.
well, let's give a round of
Thank
applause.
you.
Thank you
Oh, gosh,
so much,
no
Autumn, for being here.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
So nice to meet
It's so good to meet you.
And the front desk will validate your parking if you parked underneath the
In the parking garage.
16 level building.
It's parking garage. It's so confusing.
And our next event is in mid-July. And if you had questions about Code Advantage, you can talk to Michelle up here.